Three and Out podcast. Ben Pope alongside Brett Schaves and Mike Cicchetti. Guys, we're in the double digits now. We are fully into week 11 in the NFL, and some things are different. No one
I
wants
got
to
my wisdom
say
teeth
it.
out.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I think he meant he's missing something, MC. He's missing something. I can't put a finger on it though.
I'm sure Ben can. Ben, do us a favor and
Yes.
put a finger on it.
Put a finger
Well,
on
I
it.
don't want to do that on camera, Mike. That's inappropriate. Uh,
Oh, he's got a mustache, everybody. Look at Benny. Oh, he
what?
took the effort. Oh, he looks handsome.
No, thank you. I should have kept the soul patch to be this full Spencer Strider look. But regardless, we're talking week 11 football, folks. Um, so we're going to get right into it. But as always, if you enjoy this episode of the Three and Out Pod, please make sure to like and share the video down below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and check us out on all social medias, Three and Out Pod 1. So we're going to get started here with probably what everyone's calling the game of the year so far. And Mike, you probably thought this might have been the game of the year at the beginning of the season. As
Yeah,
times went on,
because
maybe you lost a little bit of hope, but
these were our two number one seeds in either conference that we had.
well, definitely your two number one seeds. I didn't have
Oh, that's
Buffalo
right.
up
That's right.
there.
That's right.
Um, yeah, since I'm a Bengals fan, apparently. But regardless, big
There
game
you go.
between the Minnesota Vikings and the Buffalo Bills this past weekend, which came with all sorts of surprises. Buffalo taking a two-score lead going into the fourth quarter, but Minnesota was able to come back on the uh, legs and the hands, specifically of Justin Jefferson. Big 4th and 18
Oh,
catch, and a lot of people are talking about maybe better than the Odell catch. What do you think about that, guys?
I don't know. If you look at it from like how much of a trend it's set, I think Jefferson's catch might have been a little more impressive just because of the nature of it. Odell didn't really like snag it from a defender one-handed. Jefferson quite literally went up, caught the ball with his fingertips, and shoved it away from the defender. Like you actually had to use force in the process. Odell just just laid out and snagged it with his fingertips. I think in that sense, Jefferson's talent was better, but as far as trend setting, I think Odell's is by far the definitely more iconic one.
Yeah,
yeah,
and probably this situation is going to change everything for that Jefferson catch. But
for
regardless,
sure. For sure.
a big a big catch in that game was able to get Minnesota into uh, the red zone and everything, unable to score, but then a Josh Allen fumble with Minnesota on top, and they were able to win in overtime due to a Josh Allen interception. Three turnovers in the second half for Josh Allen. So a really rough game for at least what I considered the MVP frontrunner a couple weeks back. But mainly looking at this game, guys, Minnesota now moves to 8-1. Buffalo falls to 6-3. They are now third behind the Dolphins and the Jets in that uh, AFC East, AFC Beast. I don't know about that, but
AFC East.
okay. Well, looking like Patrick over here. What's the Cowboy's name from the movie? Maybe that's me because I know he's got a big mustache.
Woody. Woody.
Definitely not, but regardless, big game here. Big indications. What do we think we learn most from this game? Who do we think we learn more about from this game? Is it the Vikings or is it the Bills?
I think we learned more about the Vikings, or at least I did, because this game I see as whoever won it or whoever lost it, this was a tough loss for either team. Both teams had, you know, great chances to win it. Even the Bills more so. But I think just the unknown really I saw of how I thought of the Vikings, like how legit are the Vikings? Like, I feel like up until this point, they haven't really proven themselves as like really big, true contenders. And I feel like winning this game and how they the how they bounce back from being down 2 scores or whatever it was, I think this shows more, or this tells me more about the Vikings than it does the Bills. The Bills, I'm still not. People are getting super low and down on the Bills. I'm not. Um, but for sure, it shows me the Vikings can beat any team.
Yeah, when I look at, this game specifically, I think we've learned more about the Vikings than more so the Bills. We knew that Buffalo was human. They're prone to make mistakes, especially considering that Josh Allen came out of this game a little bit hurt. It might have played a factor in some of the um, outcomes of the contest throughout all four and then the overtime. But I think we're a little more about Minnesota and what they're capable of, specifically with confidence and momentum. A lot of times we see Minnesota stall out, especially in big games like this. Kirk Cousins tends to stall out in big moments like this, but he stepped up and rose to the occasion. I think we learned more about how Minnesota is able to step up against these bigger teams. Everybody accused them of being frauds early in the season, but they're legit now. They took down one of not the biggest brother in the NFL. So
That was one of our pod titles a few weeks ago, the Minnesota Fraud Kings.
yeah, that's true.
They were going to say Big Brother. I was like,
Um,
we're never going to use that. Me personally, I'm going to be the lone man here. I'm going to say we learn more about the Bills. And this is not even to talk about what we saw from Josh Allen and his struggles in this game. We have seen him struggle in big time moments like this before. Other than the playoffs this previous year against the Chiefs and the Patriots, we've seen Josh Allen struggle and somewhat choke in big moments. And this kind of continued. I know people were talking about him dealing with the arm injury and how that came into fruition during this game. Maybe that had something to do with it. Reports came out after that team doctors had no concern of what Josh Allen did in this game due to his elbow injury. So I can't draw it up to that. However, I'm more concerned about what this Bills defense was doing, to be honest with you. They were looking really good, and we've seen them struggle now the past few weeks. Honestly, since the Kansas City game, they have not looked their greatest. They didn't look great in the second half against the Packers. Didn't look the previous 2 weeks against the Jets and the Vikings have been kind of bad. Not able to get a turnover against like Zach Wilson. I know they got 2 picks in this game against Kirk Cousins, but they weren't putting too much pressure on him on the D line at least. And them giving up the big plays to not only Justin Jefferson and the drive that he was able to put up on the final drive and only in regular time and in OT, but also the big run by Dalvin Cook that pretty much put them into this ball game in general, the 84-yard run. They were giving up really big plays, and they seemed susceptible to big playmakers like Cook and Jefferson in this game. So I'm concerned there, especially when we've seen kind of the differences between a Kansas City and Buffalo in previous years, and even throwing like Cincinnati into the last year, can be the plays that they make on defense and which quarterback is basically blinking first. And what we've seen from Josh Allen the past few weeks, he's now leading the league in turnovers,
Yep.
and strictly interceptions as well. If Josh Allen's going to be the quarterback that blinks first, this defense cannot flinch. And if we're seeing what they've done the previous few weeks, I have my concerns.
I think I read, don't quote me on this because this may be wrong, but I believe I read that the Bills don't have a second half touchdown in the last 4 weeks. If you want to fact check me on that, but I read that as something to that degree. And it's kind of like eye-opening because we see the Bills as this super dominant team. And Josh Allen, I mean, we know that he has all the talent in the world. He has best quarterback in the league potential.
3 weeks. Past 3 weeks.
3 weeks, okay. He has best quarterback in the league potential. We know this, but he still gives up, like Ben said, just boneheaded throws that turn into interceptions, turn into turnovers. And the defense has to step up. What I keep telling myself is that Tre'Davious White hasn't played all year, and he should be coming back any week now in the CB1 role, which will help a lot, even if he isn't to the highest degree, which I feel like he will be because they've been very slow with him. They brought him back into practice like 2 weeks ago. So they've been taking their time with him for sure. But he will definitely help in the secondary. But, I mean, the offense just has to be better. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I have faith in them, though. I think the back-to-back losses will really kind of, make them take a step back and say, all right, we have to, reel it in, especially with Josh Allen.
And you saying that about Tre'Davious White, it gives me honestly flashbacks of something I was saying last year to do with the Packers and David Bakhtiari. I was like, as soon as Bakhtiari comes back, this offense is going to be pretty much unstoppable.
Yep.
And then he came back in the playoff game, and the Niners sacked the you-know-what out of Aaron Rodgers, and that offense did nothing. So I get where you're coming from. It's kind of a tough look right now, but we will see. The Bills come up against the Browns this upcoming week. I believe this is last matchup before Deshaun Watson comes back, so that's a big matchup.
I think there's two more.
Two more.
Two more? There you go.
Yeah.
Well, still, they'll be playing Jacoby Brissett, so that'll be a good
bet the
bounce back
under.
for them.
Bet the under, too.
Oh, it's going to be snowing like heck over there.
Yeah.
And speaking of places that it loves to snow, we're going to be talking about the Green Bay mother-loving Packers and their win over the Cowboys this past weekend. A big win for the Packers that kind of just gives them some life. A 31-28 victory in overtime. Talk about some of the mistakes that the Cowboys make. Dak made a couple big interceptions in regular time. The decision by Mike McCarthy to go for it on fourth down in overtime that turned the ball over to Green Bay, only needing them to score a field goal. The 3 touchdowns by rookie Christian Watson, who seemingly went from no one even thought about him to, oh my God, is this guy the actual receiver the Packers need? Let's see him stay healthy for a few weeks and then we'll talk about it. But regardless, looking at Green Bay, their upcoming schedule is a bit tough. They've got Tennessee this upcoming week, and I know they have Philly in the next few weeks as well. But with a win this weekend, or actually they play Thursday night against Tennessee, does another win this week against Tennessee vault Green Bay back into true playoff contention? They still sit at a 4-6 record on the season.
So there's this cluster of teams because I've been trying to put together in my head the playoff standings because that's coming up. It's more than midway through the season. And there's this cluster of 3 teams in the NFC that I see sneaking into the 7th seed, which is Green Bay, Washington, and Seattle. And I think whichever one of those 3 goes on the hottest streak, the rest of the way will get that last playoff spot. Green Bay can definitely do it. I wouldn't say for sure or not yet that they're true contenders because we've had this whole season where they haven't looked. We've had one good game from them, essentially, which was this past week. I need to see more from them for sure. Winning over Tennessee, though, would be huge. I still wouldn't really throw them into true contention just yet, though, even with a win.
Don't mind the background noise, but I need to see more out of Green Bay. Plain and simple. I think the biggest thing they did right in this game was get Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon involved. Finally. It's a known factor that Dallas's run defense is definitely not the best, but Green Bay still made down the point that they can get their running backs involved and have an efficient offense and have an efficient run game, even with injured offensive linemen. I thought that was probably their biggest success move in that game, but I need to see more of it. I need to see solid 3-4 weeks where they continue to stay efficient on the ground as well as getting Christian Watson involved. Again, it was a get back into a game for Green Bay, but there needs to be more consistency.
For
just
reference, Dallas ranks 29th in rush defense.
Phew.
jeez. I just had a flashback moment. I got giddy because Green Bay's playing Miami on Christmas Day. I was like, oh my God, two great teams. And then I realized Green Bay has been who has
You
they
don't
have
know
been.
though. See, the thing about Green Bay, their defense is top 10. We know what their defense can do. Their defense has been great. Rashawn
But
Gary being out for the year
yeah, it's
concerns me.
it's been super inconsistent. Devondre Campbell is still not back yet.
Yep.
He's hopefully back in the next few weeks. Um, I don't think that a win over Tennessee would really do anything for me, mainly
Yeah.
because I want to see them beat a team that has, no offense, Tennessee, but a true like two-dimensional offense with both pass game and a run game that will come in the next week against Philly. It'll be in Philly, so that'll be a big game for Green Bay there. Not calling them to win it, but if they keep it close in any regard and they do beat Tennessee, then I have to consider them truly in contention. When we talked about this last week with the Rams, the Bucks, and the Packers, not giving up on the Packers yet, and keeping faith in the Bucks as well. That's looking pretty good. They were able to beat Seattle in Germany, but honestly, I think Green Bay, as long as they still have Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, he is not. It's honestly getting ridiculous, some of the disrespect that they're putting on him. And some of it is very much deserved. He's been a really bad leader, has not lived up to what he's done in the previous 2 years with back-to-back MVPs. But I still think as long as they have Aaron Rodgers and they have the pieces that they do on defense, it's going to be a team that stays in it until the very end of the NFL season. Not saying that they do make the playoffs, but a win versus Tennessee would be very helpful. I want to see them do something against Philly, though, specifically.
I actually texted the guys, what was it, Monday morning? Because I was just thinking about it, how we've seen Green Bay as basically the favorite to come out the NFC just about the better part of the last 5 years. And I was just saying to them how funny it would be if this is the year they just go on a run and make the Super Bowl, starting off 4-6 and making the Super Bowl. But I mean, they can do it. Their offense just has to click up. Do I have faith in them to do it? Absolutely not. But what a story to be.
For sure. And we're talking about stories. This one is a very weird story. We mentioned it briefly at the end of last week's pod. The Jeff Saturday-led Colts. They win on Sunday, so it's Jeff Sunday now. Big win against the 2-win Las Vegas Raiders, who have been
That's
a
tough.
disaster this season, to put it lightly. Jonathan Taylor gets back into the end zone, rips off a big
We love
66-yard
that.
touchdown. Love to see some life in him.
Yep.
It seems like the last-second decision that they made to start Matt Ryan over Sam Ehlinger surprisingly worked out, to the surprise of absolutely no one. Maybe the surprise is that Matt Ryan currently has a run longer than like half the starting running backs in the league at like a 37-yard run. But regardless, this is mainly to talk about the Vegas Raiders and just the struggles that they have shown pretty much all the season. Move only to 2-7 now. Derek Carr has been pretty mid to where he was last year. He was making a name for himself, really cementing himself right outside, if not in the top 10 quarterback discussion. This was a Raiders team that dealt with a lot of dysfunction last year, and they were still able to make the playoffs, still able to make a strong run last year. And then they run back close to the same team, maybe minus a few linemen, with Devontae Adams added in and some strong defensive pieces as well, namely Chandler Jones. And they've regressed significantly. So I guess the main question here for the Raiders, what is the biggest change that they need to make for their future in order to, I don't know, kind of reclaim some of the success that they saw in the previous year?
I think for me, it's scheming and game plan and coaching mentality, and you fix all that by getting rid of Josh McDaniels. In my
Which they
honest
can do.
opinion, huh?
Which they can do.
They can easily do. Mark Davis has been in the locker room multiple times after games having conversations with Josh McDaniels and the coaching staff. In my honest opinion, they should have kept Rich Bisaccia in the first place.
I
He was
agree with
doing
that. I
he was a
100% agree
phenomenal
with
coach
that.
at the end of the regular season, moving into the postseason, and he nearly carried them to a win over Cincinnati. They had a
That's what
couple.
I've been saying.
Bisaccia would have been phenomenal. He knew the game plan. He knew what Gruden wanted. He knew Derek Carr's strengths. Imagine
Yep.
him now with Devontae Adams, with Chandler Jones, with all of these guys on defense and added pieces with Derek Carr. It
Yeah.
just didn't make sense to me. It wasn't the right move for the franchise to go to McDaniels. The scheming's off. It seems discombobulated, and they just need to get rid of him. I think a refresh and maybe even bringing Bisaccia back at some point. Who knows? But I don't even know what's in store for the Raiders. But I think the first step is getting rid of McDaniels.
I agree with that, but it's tougher said than done, though.
Yeah,
Because they fire him, hire a new coach, then then they're paying 3 head coaches.
Yep.
I agree with you. They should have kept Bisaccia, even if you keep him on a short leash. I think he proved himself, more than proved himself. I want to say went 6-3, 6-4, something like that, when he was head coach with them. But I mean, you're absolutely right. McDaniels has to go. I don't know how. I wouldn't necessarily blow it up. I know this has been like a big thing within the Raiders, just getting rid of Derek Carr has been, some conversations the past few years. I don't know if you go that far because the players you have on the team, especially the offense, they're great, but he's just not able to get it done. The one score losses really are the biggest, overshadowing thing. That they're 2-7, right?
Yep.
And 6 of those losses are within one possession, which is ridiculous. They're just not able to finish. So, I mean, Mark Davis already said McDaniels will stick around, at least through the next season. I want to say so, but I don't know. I think if they continue on this trend, you have to do some real thinking if you want to go into next season with him as your coach, because I think at that rate, you're probably losing the locker room.
Yeah, the weirdest thing for me is so I look at just their defensive rankings, and it's nothing like they're consistently top, bottom 10 or anything. They're kind of in the middle of the pack, to be honest with you. They also haven't allowed less than 20 points to any opponent. So they've allowed 20 or more points to every opponent that they played this year. So they've just they haven't been blown out or anything, aside from maybe the Kansas City game. But they also have not held an offense to a really bad day. Davis Mills was able to put up 20 points on them.
Mm-hmm.
That says something. I'm in agreement. I also don't think they can fire Josh McDaniels. I don't know if they can afford to. That was a point that's been brought up a few times. I think it's great that you guys mentioned Rich Bisaccia, because that's really not been something talked about, honestly, the majority of the season, even though the Raiders have not looked good all season. So that's a great point to bring up. And we were talking about this at the end of last year, that he probably just should have gotten the job. It was a weird decision to hire McDaniels. I get the thought process that they wanted to just bring in a fresh face to kind of put behind everything that happened last year, but they had a lot of good stuff happen last year, aside from the few off the field things. So yeah, I think it's honestly just the coaching. You mentioned it pretty well, Mike. I was trying to defend it earlier in the preseason, but they have by far the worst defense, not only in their division, but one of the worst defenses in the AFC in general. So that is obviously something that they have to work on.
Chandler Jones has been really bad.
Yeah.
They brought him in 3 years, 50 mil, something around that.
Something like that, yeah.
And he has a half sack.
Yeah.
You're getting more production. Also, Max Crosby is having an insane year, but nobody's talking about it because
his team is garbage.
Yeah. No.
Yep. Yeah. Pretty much. And we go from garbage to, how do I transition this to Germany? We're going to Germany, folks. The Sunday morning game. You know what's garbage? Sunday morning football.
I kind of like it.
Sunday morning
Nope.
football is pretty garbage.
No, I
I
kind of
hate
like
not,
it.
I've not
I
tuned
want to
into a single
sleep on
game.
Sunday. I don't want to get up at 9 o'clock to feel obligated to watch a football game.
Yeah,
I wanna
how do
be
you
able to
feel about the
sleep in.
straight? What made me think was the Seattle fans. They gotta wait. The kickoff is at what, 6:30 for them.
That's garbage.
I was thinking about that watching the game. I said I was laying on the couch with my blanket on at 9:45, thinking shouldn't be up now. Fans in Seattle are sitting there 6:45.
Straight robe on.
Okay.
Did you have a robe on? Okay.
I didn't have a robe on. I was in my skivvies.
Okay, well, we didn't need to know that. But a big
Like,
win
yeah, they
for
closed on
the.
too.
Oh my God.
Continue.
Lederhosen. A big win for the Buccaneers in Germany. This is their second straight win. Seems like they're grasping onto some sort of life in not only their division but in the playoffs as well. They bring their record over to 500, aside from possibly the worst played scheme design that I've ever seen from a Tampa Bay or a Tom Brady, excuse me, led offense with the Leonard Fournette pass. Looked pretty good in this game, pretty solid. You got Julio Jones back involved. Chris Godwin found the end zone for the first time this year. Pretty much held Geno Smith to pretty much nothing, and honestly, the entire Seattle offense to nothing until they got into the fourth quarter. Kenneth Walker basically had no run game, and Geno looked like New York Jets Geno. They were making memes about him, but regardless, looking at this more for Tampa Bay here, this is a big win for them. We talked about how big of a win this would be if they're able to pull it off, and they do. So, do we have a little bit more faith in the Buccaneers now coming off their second straight victory, getting a little bit more grasp on their division, and they've got plenty of time to kind of regain their form once again? Do we have more faith in this Bucs team?
I think there's a little bit more faith. I think this is definitely a big win as far as confidence and knocking down Seattle that everybody's been hyping up the last few weeks. I think this is a big win for Brady in trying to get his resurgence and confidence back, considering the lackluster and offensive production that they've had in the last 3 weeks. I don't know. I think as a whole, you have to look at Tampa Bay as a grain of salt. Obviously, they've had weeks like this where they're going to go ahead and they're going to make a big win. And there's other weeks where they absolutely stink it up against a team that they should not lose to at all. For example, Carolina should not have lost that game whatsoever. They lost. Stunk it up. And they go ahead and beat Seattle in a big win. Run game stands out. Brady produces. Defense comes up big. It's a textbook win for Todd Bowles and the Bucs, but you got to take it with a grain of salt. It's very similar to Green Bay's situation, but I've got a little bit more faith in them.
The Steelers too.
Yep.
I was
They lost
waiting
for
for
a
him to
second favorite
mention
team.
that. Well, we know if Big Ben was at the helm, they would have lost for sure. But
Well, Big Ben was at the helm this past weekend, and they won.
Well, Big Ben would have went straight 44-53, and his longest pass would have been 8 yards, and they would have still got the win.
what are you saying? Big Ben was at the helm.
Big Ben was at the game last weekend, and they won.
Yeah, they beat the Saints.
Oh, come
Diss
on,
at
man.
both
Put
of
some
you.
more faith in the Red Rocket.
He's going to
No.
start again this week. How about you put in
Stop it.
Jameis, you frauds?
How about you tell Dennis Allen to leave New? Anyways,
I thought you loved
yeah.
him.
Dennis Allen,
Yeah, you were
you
talking
must
him
be
up.
crazy.
You were talking about the beginning of the season. Go ahead, though.
I was trying to. Yeah, I mean, you have to have more faith in the Bucks moving forward. Tom Brady, although not putting up the stats that we're used to, touchdown wise, eye test has been fine the whole year. He just hasn't had protection. He hasn't looked bad. He still makes incredible throws every week. Him having protection now. Hopefully that can stay consistent and better protection. And the defense can just do its job and do what they do. I think it's still, I mean, they're lucky they're in the division they are because despite being neck and neck with all of them, I can't see anyone but the Bucks winning this division. We know Brady's a different beast in the playoffs, but like, I don't know how really serious you can take this Bucks team when it comes playoff time. So I guess we'll see. Them and the Packers are big waiting games. If and when it comes to playoff time.
Yeah, I disagree completely because like Tampa's the 4 seed right now. Saying if everything lines up the way that everything is set up right now, they would be playing the Cowboys in the first round. I don't think they would have any issue there because they've handily beaten Dallas, not only earlier this year with Dak, but in previous years as well, and they really haven't made it much of a contest. Then they would be playing the winner of Daniel Jones and Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah, I don't think I would have any concern there. And then you might be facing either Geno Smith, Kirk Cousins, or Jalen Hurts and the Philly team that they dogged all over the previous year. Now, I know that's being pretty general and just stating the quarterbacks out there. A lot of other aspects to go into. But at the same time, when Brady and the Bucks are going to have 7 weeks to kind of settle themselves, make sure that they're healthy for the playoffs. They have a couple good matchups later in the season. I know they played Cincinnati, so that'll be a test of their strength. I want to see if they have their offense back and really able to click. They put up 21 against Seattle. That's good. Let me see you put up like a classic Tom Brady 3-4 touchdown game, and that'll get some confidence back. But at the same time, like when it comes to playoff time, I'm going to take Tom Brady over pretty much any of those quarterbacks like going forward. Like maybe with the exception of Jalen Hurts, just because of the team that they have around him. But didn't get much from this game. But in the long run, I have way more faith in the Bucks than I don't know. I think that more people are giving them credit for.
I think you can have faith in the Bucks. I just have the way you explain it. I definitely have more faith in a couple other teams, and I don't know how deep Brady can go at this point. I think if you look at it in a sense of, okay, he can get past the first round in Dallas. That's an easy one. No problem at all. Then you go to the winner of Daniel Jones and Jimmy Garoppolo. Yes, he could very well go past that round as well. There's 2 rounds. Then you move on to maybe a conference championship with either Minnesota or Philadelphia. I think that's a lot harder of a matchup than people are giving it right now. I honestly would take the Vikings or the Eagles over Tampa Bay in this case. I honestly trust Minnesota and the team besides Kirk Cousins and Philadelphia, besides the team and Jalen Hurts, over just highlighting Tom Brady in the Bucks team specifically. I think it's at a point now in Brady's career where the Bucks kind of have to rely on a little bit more than just Brady. I know I'm saying a lot here, but I think it's at a point in the career. But that's just my take.
What I'll say
until Minnesota is able to score, beat a team by more than one score, I don't give a what, because there's no way that Minnesota would beat Tampa by like a small score, like a 3 or 7. I can't see that happening.
What I'll say is that if it was a hypothetical Brady or Bucks Vikings matchup, as a Vikings fan, I would be a little scared.
Yep.
Because I know the Vikings secondary isn't great. And I know Brady is the safest quarterback with the ball. He will make the highest IQ play whenever he can. So just that matchup alone would scare me. I mean, yeah, it's a waiting game for me. I mean, I want to see more consistency out of them, definitely, but Ben.
Yeah, I agree.
Ben's kind of convincing me when you break it down like that.
Yeah, it's a tough stitch. Like Philly has earned their flowers. I don't care that we're gonna get into Philly and Washington our next point,
Mhm.
but I'm gonna give Philly their flowers. They have proven that they are a good football team. I haven't seen it yet in the playoffs, but I'm gonna give them their credit. They would be a team that I'd say could beat Tampa. No other team in the NFC, I would say, is a clear-cut favorite over Tampa, or even like I don't know, a score favorite over Tampa. I figured I would take Tampa in pretty much any other game or any other matchup, at least in the NFC, at least right now. But we can kind of move on here and talk about the aforementioned Eagles picking up their first loss to the Washington Commanders. Oh my goodness. Taylor Heineke is going to get his green kicks because he buys a new pair of shoes for every team he beats.
Beautiful too.
Hey, they are very nice
The
shoes.
fours.
Someone compared him to like that kid on the group project that like everyone likes, but he did like no part of the work, but he gets all the credit. Of course, that's a cowardism there for you, but regardless, Washington looks really good. They do
Mm.
move to 500 on the season, which now brings every Eastern Conference team, so the AFC East and the NFC East, they're all 500 or above. You tell me that at the beginning of the season, probably don't believe that,
No way.
especially with uh, the Jets and the Commanders mainly there. But
And the
guys,
Giants.
I think I had a little bit more faith in the Giants, but that's 100%. Not definitely not 6-3. Guys, is there? We talked about this a little bit with the NFC West and the AFC West being possible last year. This is pretty deep into the season, 10 weeks. Is it actually possible that all the East teams make it to the playoffs?
Yes.
You're talking NFC wise?
NFC East and AFC East, both.
No.
Currently, every team in the AFC East is in the playoffs.
Correct.
And currently in the NFC, the Commanders are a half game out of the seventh seed. So, just for
Who's in the
context,
7th seed right now?
it is the Niners.
No.
No.
Then no.
No way.
I
And
can
it's
see
not.
the AFC East, but not the NFC East.
I'm the opposite because
Really?
I think San Francisco will wind up winning that division. That's why I mentioned before that cluster of three teams I could see sneaking in: Washington, Green Bay, Seattle. Um, the AFC East. I mean, the Jets. I think they'll be fighting for that seventh seed with the Bengals or the Chargers. I don't see the Patriots making it.
Okay.
I don't at all because their schedule coming up is too tough. Like I look at their schedule and I find it hard to see them end up better than 8 and 9. And I don't think that gets you a playoff spot. The Patriots are like the team that makes me say no.
Yeah, just for context, they have the Jets this week. Then they have matchups with the Vikings, the Bills, the Cardinals, the Raiders, the Bengals, the Dolphins, and the Bills to end off the season. So
I think they end the year 0-3. Cincy, Miami, Buffalo, and I think Buffalo. I kept saying that Patriots could sneak out a win last week in Buffalo if they're locked into that spot. I don't think Buffalo can even afford now to rest the starters last week. So I think
Nope.
I do think the Patriots end the season 0-3.
the only way that I see Buffalo resting starters is if they win in Miami in their second
And they're
matchup,
just
or
locked
it
into a
would be in
spot.
Buffalo. But yeah, it's still going to be a tough situation.
Yeah.
I actually agree with Mike. I don't think there's no way that all the AFC East teams make it because Cincinnati is currently not in the playoffs, and there's no way that they don't make the playoffs, in my opinion.
Mhm. I agree.
So between the Jets and the Patriots, one of those teams is not making it in for sure. I honestly don't think either of them will. I think they're both great stories and everything, but it's tough for me to see. I think the Bengals will definitely make the playoffs, and then I think a team between, maybe I'm being generous here, but I'm going to still give the Browns a shot, but mainly the Chargers and
That's
yes,
it.
the Chargers. That's probably it.
Yeah,
'Cause
that's how I see it. I see the 3 wild cards as whoever comes in second in the AFC East, the Bills or Miami, and then Cincinnati and the Chargers.
yeah, honestly, looking at it more, maybe the Jets can make the playoffs. That's crazy.
I think
Yeah,
at the end of the day, it's going to come down to a situation we saw last year, like the Raiders and the Chargers, where it's going to be week 17. What the heck's going to happen? It's going to come down to either a matchup in the end, a divisional matchup between New England and Buffalo, or whoever it may be, that opens up that 7th seed. I think it's going to come that close again. It's shaping out to be that case right now.
What a great game that was. That was so good. What I love about this year is that usually every year there's one team that just looks so on top of the other. This year, there is not one team that I look at and I say they're the best team in the league. So I think this is going to make for really, really good playoff matchups because you look at even right now, just the projected playoff matchups, any team can beat any team. And usually you always have that 1 or 2 games wild card weekend. You're like, this is going to be a snooze fest. So yeah, I'm expecting some good yaws this year. I will say that.
Agreed.
good yaffs. Okay, interesting. Okay. Well, that is the end of our normally scheduled program here. We do not have a 2-minute drill, but we have something a little bit new here. And I was trying to.
Apologies to Rob. He loves a 2-minute drill.
He does love the 2-minute drill, but I think he'll love this even more.
Mm.
We're going to have to give it a second here.
Oh boy. What is he doing?
Ben
he's
is
grabbing the
always up on
shades.
his theatrics.
It is time. I literally just put on sunglasses. That's it. The stars of line. We've been discussing the previous couple weeks, or we discussed a couple weeks back, our top leaders for all the major awards, including the MVP. But there's been a topic on my mind that you can see the reflection of the screen in my glasses. There's been a topic on my mind that, shout out to Gian Abenizio. I'm going to point you out here because you are the reason that this segment is happening, because he said something catastrophic that really, really got me going on this topic. We're talking about players not at the quarterback position that should be involved in the MVP conversation. And we had completely different opinions on it. So you know what? I'm going to stamp my stamp of approval on here. This is Bope's picks, and we are going to go through my top 8 non-quarterback MVP favorites, or the NAQ MVP, the not a quarterback MVP power rankings.
Are they ranked in order?
They are ranked in order. I have
Okay.
my top 8 candidates. We can see what you guys think here. I'm going to mainly go off the narrative here and really see what you guys think. Brett
say your list, and we'll just wait until after to share our thoughts on it.
For sure. Brett looks so interested. He's not even sitting up in his seat. I'm ready for it. We're
ready.
loving it. You like that? All right.
All right, Kirk.
Starting off at number 8, the namesake, the Philly killer. He didn't do anything this past weekend, but it's okay. It's A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown has come over to this Philly offense, the main offensive piece that they have added in the offseason. He's done phenomenal thus far. He's top 10 in receiving yards thus far this year. He's been the main piece as Brett walks away. I love it so much. He's grabbing the water. A.J. Brown has been the main offensive piece that really clicked with Jalen Hurts. They have such really good chemistry. You saw the Pittsburgh game that he had 3 touchdowns there. He's been one of the best wide receivers in the league this year. He's really clicked that Philly offense to taking the next level. I'm trying to get the glasses out from the reflection. That's really bothering me here. But A.J. Brown at the bottom of the list, but still has a valid case for MVP. I think Jalen hurts his case just a little bit, and he's not even the best receiver in, I don't know, the NFC. So we'll move on to number 7 on Bope's picks, not a QB MVP power rankings. It's a mouthful. You like the Sauce? We're going to put Sauce Gardner on the list. Sauce Gardner at number 7. He is the main reason that this Jets defense has clicked on both sides of the ball. They look phenomenal. The Jets have basically, okay, well, you said you were going to stay silent. Let me speak. This is my turn.
I'm letting you speak.
We're going all over the place here. Sauce Gardner has looked unbelievable. Best player on the Jets defense thus far. He's probably one of the main reasons that they've looked good so far. He's playing phenomenal for a rookie. He's added to the secondary in the sense that no one really expected. And he's provided immense value to this team. Probably not the best defensive player in the AFC, but he's right up there in that conversation. And I think just the value that he's provided to the Jets alone brings him into this conversation. But he's not top 6 material like this next guy. Judon, get the hand motion over here. Alex Green, that's for you. Wearing the Max jersey. Beautiful there. Matthew Judon currently leading the league in sacks for the Patriots. He's been phenomenal.
God.
The main key piece for the Patriots defense this past 2 years. He has been an unbelievable free agent signing for New England. However, I just don't think the Patriots have enough juice to keep them in the playoff conversation. I think Judon's playing phenomenal, and he's got a really good shot at being the defensive player of the year at the way that he is playing currently, right up there with Mike Parsons and Nick Bosa. But just because of the Patriots and the stigmatism that you must make the playoffs to be really in the MVP conversation, he's only at number 6. He doesn't crack the top 5. We're going to get into that right now in number 5. And that's, Brett, you can do it with me.
Oh, God.
Justin Jefferson of the Minnesota Vikings. Everyone's talking about it after this past weekend. Oh, Justin Jefferson, he should be in the MVP conversation now. He's been phenomenal. Well, guys, how about you actually give him his flowers before he just pops off the same way he has all season? He did super well in this game against Buffalo, but he's been phenomenal. I believe he has 6 straight games of either 100 yards or touchdown scored. He's been great this entire season. Probably had only 2 bad games this entire year. He's probably the best wide receiver in the NFL right now. Don't at me. I know Tyreek Hill's been phenomenal this year, but Justin Jefferson is the complete package for me. I think with Minnesota, their record obviously helps Jefferson's case, but I don't even think he's been the best wide receiver this year, so I don't think I can rank him that high up, only at number 5 here. We're going to go to our next guy here, probably the lead player for Defensive Player of the Year thus far, and that's Micah Parsons at the number 4 spot. I think just with the Cowboys, Parsons is a key piece on that defense. You've talked about Trayvon Diggs, what he's able to do last year, really hasn't carried over to this year. Missing pieces on the D-line. They've had some shakeups here. The one constant has been Micah Parsons. He is probably the most versatile defensive player in the league right now, and what he's been able to do for Dallas value-wise is unmatched. He's probably the highest value defensive player in the league right now. However, have him outside the top 3 just because I have reservations about the Cowboys. Probably will make the playoffs, probably a lower seed though, so it kind of lessens his value, especially since I think he's probably the same value to the Cowboys as he was the previous year. We're going to get into the top 3 right now. Mike, get off your phone. Look at me straight in the eyes. Thank you very much. Magnum PI with a mustache over here. We're going to get into top 3 here. And we're going to get Tyreek Hill from the Miami Dolphins. You already know it. He is still on pace to very closely match or beat Calvin Johnson's receiving record. He has been unbelievable thus far. Probably the biggest move made in the offseason last year. Don't at me. Tyreek Hill coming over from the Chiefs to the Dolphins. Only reservation that I have with Tyreek's case, I was about to say his name, is Tua. Tua has a great MVP case as well. When you have two really quality players on the same team, I think that their cases really clash with each other. Plus, I think even though that he has helped out Jalen Waddle would still be able to do the things that Tyreek Hill does, probably to a lesser degree. But those two pieces in Waddle and Tua really take away from Tyreek Hill's case, in my opinion. But he's still in the top 3, but he's not 2. And that is placed for the King, Derrick Henry at number 2 in the non-QB MVP power rankings. King Henry, right over 100 rushing yards on the season. He has basically been the only solidifying piece on the Tennessee offense. Reason that they are right now leading the division in the AFC South as Mike picks his nose and looks uninterested. Look at me, sir. Thank you very much. Feel the burn, as my shirt says. Derrick Henry, number 2. And number 1, I've been beating the drum. Gian, you don't think he's valuable just because he's on them boys? It's Saquon Barkley, and it's not even close. I don't think the Giants would be anywhere close to what they are without Saquon Barkley. Very similar to what Tennessee has with Derrick Henry. But I think Saquon is leading arguably the worst offense. And where the Giants are, they had absolutely no expectations. At least the Titans did have expectations coming into the year. So I'm playing a little bit of the narrative here just because they had very similar numbers. I think Saquon has the narrative going for him. I think he's been the most valuable player, not at the quarterback position, and that's by power rankings. Brett, get off your phone. What do you think?
I'm not on my phone. I like the list. I don't think the Giants are the worst offense. Have you seen Denver? Gosh.
I wasn't calling them the worst offense. I was comparing them to Tennessee if you listen correctly.
Well, I'm sorry I misinterpreted, and my ear holes are poop. Anywho, I like the list.
Why do you just diss himself?
Because that's just what I do. That's just my shtick.
Okay.
I think when you look at your top 3, I think it's very good. I think Henry, in my opinion, is number 1 because I think there are other factors to the Giants' offense besides Barkley.
Like
I don't
what?
think there's a single lick of factors on offense for the Titans besides Derrick Henry. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I think you can look at Richie James, Darius Slayton. Daniel Jones is able to throw the ball.
Brett.
He's able to throw the ball. I get it. They're not talented. I get it.
Okay. No,
But
I'm
at
not
least
saying
Daniel Jones has an air game.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that Darius Slayton averages 41 receiving yards a game. Richie James averages 21 receiving yards a game.
Okay, but at least they're getting targets. The Titans receivers didn't get a single target all game a few weeks ago. A single target.
Okay, well, if you want to play this game. No, you can't. You
I
can't.
can't what? I can't have an opinion?
No.
I can't have an opinion?
You're not letting me talk.
Okay.
Oh.
No, he can't talk.
Huh?
What was yours?
I mean, it's names. I mean, no, but no, I like the list. When you were getting to 4 and 3, I was gonna say, where's Saquon? Him being at 1 is absolutely correct, in my opinion. What I don't know. What differentiates Saquon from Derrick Henry is that I just see the Giants being the stronger team or the more consistent team over Tennessee. Here, you wrote it here. Let me look down. So you have the Tyreek Hill is great. I think you could even make an argument with him at 2, which I wouldn't hate, but your point to Tua obviously comes into effect. Justin Jefferson is there, and AJ Brown has been great. Then defensively, you have Micah Parsons at 4, which is fine. I think he's been the best defensive player. Matt Judon there, his numbers speak for themselves. And Sauce Gardner who changed that defense. Yeah, I don't hate the list at all. I think it's for the most part pretty accurate.
Seems like you like the list.
I do. Saquon at 1 is perfect. Saquon Barkley at 1 is the objectively the best outcome. Subjectively, but
I love the list. I would have personally swapped Henry and Barkley.
so you don't love the
Otherwise,
list.
I think it's spot on. What did he say?
I said, so you don't love the list.
That's not what I said. I said I think the list is very good and I like it. My personal opinion, I would have just swapped Henry and Barkley. Don't put words into my mouth, Giacchetti.
These are like
Okay.
children on the playground trying to tell me which swing is better, the one subsequent to Brett or the one subsequent to Mike. I don't give a ruffles. They both do the same thing. The only reason I have Saquon over Henry is basically just to reiterate. I think coming into this year, I had no expectations for the Giants. And Saquon, I thought he would be able to produce, not at this level, but at least somewhere subsequent. And I didn't think the Giants would be good. They are winning ball games currently because of Saquon Barkley.
Yep.
So the Titans with Derrick Henry, so with the Dolphins with Tyreek Hill. But just because I had absolutely no expectations for the Giants, and Saquon's been playing at the same level as Derrick Henry, just because the teams are uneven, and I had at least a little bit of faith in Tennessee, that's where I give the leverage to the Giants and Barkley.
I think that's fair.
But regardless, that's the first edition of Bope's List, talking about power rankings, not the NAQ MVP.
NAQ, not a quarterback.
Oh, it got it smoother than I thought you would. That's very nice. Probably first and last edition of me wearing the sunglasses because that was really ugly. But we'll move on to our games of the week, week 11. Actually, subsequent to what we've been dealing with the past few weeks, actually have some good matchups here, guys. So I'll turn it over to Brett first. Give me your game of the week for here in week 11.
My game of the week, week 11, Vikings Cowboys. This game is going to be another tough matchup for Minnesota. I think it honestly is going to be a little bit easier than the time that they had in Buffalo. Dak Prescott is coming off a tough loss with the Cowboys against Green Bay, looking to sort of defend their territory back at home. I think Minnesota's going to play a little spoiler again. I think they get their 9th win of the season here. I think you're going to see a lot more defense here from the Vikings than you did offense last game. We saw a lot of shining pieces between Jefferson, Hawkinson, Kirk Cousins, even Dalvin Cook. But I think you're going to see a lot more of the defense prevalent in this game against Dallas. And I think Minnesota ends up getting the W in AT&T Stadium.
Michael, where are you going?
I am going with the Sunday night game that got flexed. Chiefs at Chargers. Every time these two teams face off, we know it's going to be a great matchup. Earlier in the year, it was, I believe, the first or the second, right, Thursday night game of the year. And that game was amazing. Now these two teams are kind of different. The Chiefs have taken form into presumably the best, quote unquote, the best team in the league, some say. And the Chargers have been dealing with a lot of injuries. Good thing for the Chargers, they have Keenan Allen and Mike Williams practicing again on Wednesday, although limited, is a good sign. Or is a positive sign that both of them will play. And I think the Chargers will go all out. The Chargers need this win. All division games matter. Division win, especially over a team like the Chiefs, is huge. I don't think it'll come down to the Chargers possibly winning this division because I think the Chiefs will run off with this if they haven't already. But It's an important game. And go Bolts.
Mike had some sadness when he had to admit that the Chargers cannot win the division, but hey, Brett had to do it in week 3, so at least it's coming a little bit later.
I've been doing this since week
Um,
1.
Week 1, okay, that's a little bit fair. My matchup is a Thursday night game between what Mike would call two of my favorites, the Tennessee Titans and the Green Bay Packers. Mentioned in the Packers segment, this is going to be close to a must-win for them. It's really big. Two of the bigger pieces on defense for each side. Jeffrey Simmons for Tennessee and Devondre Campbell for Green Bay, likely both going to be out. Jeffrey Simmons didn't practice on Wednesday, so we will see if he does play. This will just be a matchup between whose offense is actually able to start clicking. We saw this game a couple years back, pretty much the same situation in Green Bay, was able to come out on top. This time it is in Tennessee, so we'll have to see just how that works out for the Packers. But honestly, it's actually in Lambeau, so they played back-to-back times in Lambeau. That's weird. But regardless, it's just which team's able to get their offense rolling first. This is a big matchup for both these teams. Tennessee coming off of their uneventful matchup against Denver this past weekend. So they have probably some less pressure on them to pick up a W. But regardless, big matchup between two teams that just need to show something on offense, man. We need to start clicking here. So it'll be an interesting Thursday night game. And now we will be moving on to our last segment, our finality. What everyone loves. Finality. Like,
Well,
not the finale. Not the finale, but like, finality is like the ending, the climax. It's a word. We're just going to roll with it. We're going to go with stands of the week from week 10. I'm actually going to start it off because I want to make sure no one claims this man. And I had a brain fart there for a second. I'm going to go with Patrick Peterson from the Minnesota Vikings. Had the game-winning interception against Buffalo this past weekend. 2 picks on this game for Pat Pete. Probably more on Josh Allen for this interception, but 2 really big turnovers in this game. Late in the game, they were able to pick it up and really supplemented this Minnesota win. Pat Pete's been okay this season, and the Minnesota secondary, like Mike mentioned, hasn't been that great, but came up in a really big moment for Minnesota, able to clinch the victory. So I'm going to give Patrick Peterson his flowers, and he is my first stand of the week. Brett, you seem upset. I definitely
was getting ready to say Skull Vikings and Skull Pat Pete, but
very nice. So glad that I sniped you because I've definitely been sniped because I always go third usually. So that's why I went first. We're going to turn over to Mike so Brett has some time to rethink one. Go ahead, Mike.
I guess since you went defense, I'll go defense as well. I'm going with Devin White.
Okay.
Devin White has been going through some adversity this season. People saying him not playing up to the standard and the level that we know he can play at. This game against Seattle, he was the best defensive player. 2 sacks. He was all over the field, led the Bucs in tackles, and he was just out there showing that, showing the level he plays at. They keep this up, or he keeps this up. That is a huge boost for that defense. Shout out Devin White.
All right. I've got 2 new ones. I replaced Patrick Peterson, sadly. But that's not this one. I've had this one. I'm a Jonathan Taylor stan. The man's is back. 22 carries, 147 yards, and a tutty with Jeff Sunday's Colts. He looked good. Finally was able to get
Did you mean to say that?
Rolling. What's that?
You meant to say that?
Oh, I did mean to say that. He's Jeff Sunday.
Okay.
Anywho, he looked good. The offense was run first. Taylor looked healthy. Oh, it was a perfect day for the Colts. It was a perfect day for Jonathan Taylor. I am a JT stan.
See, this is where I hesitated earlier because I was going to go with this one first, but I had a feeling Patrick Peterson might be picked by someone else. I know no one picked this guy because why would you? I'm a Nick Westbrook Akina stan.
I
Oh,
love this
yeah.
one.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you love it because he torched you on Sunday? Okay.
I've been waiting for it to break out from Nick Westbrook and Kine.
Well, yeah. So coming into this game, I think he had maybe 200 receiving yards on the season. Has not been utilized at all. Pretty much like any receiver on Tennessee. But the flea flicker from Ryan Tannehill to Nick Westbrook-Akina, he was also able to get another 20-yard touchdown earlier in the contest. So 2 touchdowns for Nick Westbrook-Akina, over 120 receiving yards as well. Almost matched his season total in one game. Thank you, Broncos. I thought you were supposed to be good on defense. But Nick Westbrook-Akina, let's see if he's able to do anything at all the rest of the season, because see what the receivers can do. But yeah, Nick Westbrook-Akina is my second stand of the week.
It's a Kine. If you're going to pick the stand, get it right.
You don't think I know how to pronounce my own guy's name?
You said Akina. It's a Kine.
Nick Westbrook-Akina.
There you go. The mustache got it right.
That's crazy.
Called the mustache?
Um,
No, I call you the glasses? Okay, go ahead.
then what am I? The beard.
Yeah.
Mike Napoli. All right.
Who loves that?
We love Mike Napoli. My next stand is, not one you would think of. But it's my guy who is very near and dear to my heart. I'm a Jeff Wilson stan.
I love this one. I love it.
Miami.
My man said near and dear to my heart. That's cap.
No,
Maybe
I
it's
mean,
because they have beards. They have matching beards.
I love Jeff Wilson. You kidding me? But no, him coming over from San Francisco, Miami hasn't really had a run game, really. And I think Jeff Wilson solves this issue. He had 120 rushing yards, average 7 yards per carry, and a touchdown, and he had 140 total yards, 20 yards through the air. I think him joining Miami, I think that trade will be huge for them because I think he opens up that run game, which will then in turn open up the passing game, leading to Miami being unstoppable on offense. So with that being said, my Jeff Wilson jersey is in the mail.
Just
So
says
my Gino
Rex
jersey.
Gino. There we go.
It isn't in the mail, my Jeff Wilson jersey, but it should be. Jeff Wilson gets, who does Miami play this week?
That's a good question.
They have a bye.
That's right. Yeah.
Who do they play the week after?
What do you think I am, a calendar man?
For the Dolphins, yeah, you are.
Well,
I got you. They play
the
Houston.
Texans.
Oh my God! I was gonna say if Jeff Wilson goes for over 100 yards, I'll buy his jersey, but
Well, that's a guarantee. So put it in the mail.
all right.
Go ahead, Brett.
Jeff Wilson is the reason I am just about in the playoffs for fantasy right now. So thank you, Jeff Wilson.
You're welcome.
Anyways,
Yeah, and they'll
my last
get
stand.
slobbed on by me in the first round. Go ahead.
My last stand is somebody who's been a little quiet this year, a little bit, because he's had no help from his quarterbacks. I'm a Terry McLaurin stan. 128 receiving yards on the day. Taylor Heineke was targeting him all over the place. It seemed like English bread. Seems like McLaurin was able to break away from the Philadelphia secondary, which a lot of receivers have not been able to do this year. And I was a big fan of the way he finished the game in the fourth quarter. Nice day out of the receiver. He's back. I am a scary Terry stan.
And we love Terry.
Well, it's nice of you guys to show some enthusiasm.
Scary like my painting.
All right. Spencer
Okay, all right.
Strider with the
And
random
cue the
play of
outro.
anything.
Wow, that's a little hurtful. Well, we are at the end of this episode here on the Three and Out Pod. Hope you guys all enjoyed. Let's see if we get Bope's list back again. Probably never, but we'll
Aw.
see. See if we get the 2-minute drill back for Rye Rob.
Well, he'd love that.
He'll love to see that. So if you enjoyed, make sure you like, comment down below what you'd like to see from us in the future. Hit the subscribe if you enjoyed. Also, check us out on all social medias, 3 and Out Pod 1. And for Brett Shavs and Mike Cicchetti, I've been Ben Pope. Take care. Shave your hair.